laughs under his breath, a slow, curling sound, like someone enjoying a secret no one else has noticed yet. Funny thing about people, they walk around thinking they've figured out the script. They think they know who wins, who loses, who gets the last word. They build their little predictions, their little assumptions, their neat little ideas of how life is supposed to treat them, how you are supposed to stay small, quiet, predictable. They get comfortable, too comfortable. And that's when life has the most fascinating sense of humor, decides to rearrange the stage in ways they never saw coming. You know, it's funny how people think the world isn't watching. They walk around acting like their actions just evaporate into thin air, like there's no echo, no ripple, no hungry little shadow waiting to bounce everything right back at them. They forget that life has this strange appetite times for balance. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't need applause. It just waits. And while they're busy assuming they've gotten away with their little games, their sly comments, their smug little smirks, something out there is already collecting every piece, every intention. Not in a dramatic way, no lightning bolts, no trumpets. It's quieter, more patient. It creeps in, it studies, it remembers. See, people underestimate the power of observation, not just yours, but the world's. They think no one notices the way they twist things behind your back, or how they pretend to be harmless while dripping venom. They think their performances are flawless. They really believe they can walk around wearing masks made of arrogance and insecurity, and no one will ever peek behind them. But the world, the world has a talent for peeling masks off without touching a single thread. It knows exactly where to press, exactly when to move, exactly how to expose the truth they've been hiding like a stolen treasure. And while they're laughing, while they're whispering, while they're plotting in the dark, something else is listening, something bigger, something sharper. It doesn't respond immediately. And that's what makes it so unnerving. People mistake silence for approval. They mistake delay for escape. They think nothing is happening because they can't hear footsteps coming for them. But the steps aren't supposed to be loud. They're supposed to be unexpected. The world prefers surprises. It likes to watch people trip on the very traps they set for others. It likes to see how fast their confidence melts when the balance swings back. You might have noticed it too, how their actions don't disappear. They circle, they stain, they stick to them like a scent they can't wash off. And all this time, while they thought they were pushing you down, all they were really doing was digging the ground under their own feet. You didn't have to push. You didn't have to fight. You didn't even have to speak. Because the world observes more than anyone thinks. It sees what they do in the dark. It hears the tone behind their words. It studies the intentions behind every move, and it remembers them like a collector cherishing rare artifacts. And when the moment finally comes, it never arrives with a warning. It hits them right where they never expected. Not because you wished it, not because you forced it, but because nothing stays unbalanced forever. The world doesn't like unfinished stories. It doesn't tolerate crooked scales. It adjusts them in its own time, in its own way. And when that adjustment arrives, the ones who thought they were untouchable suddenly find themselves standing in the spotlight they hoped to avoid. Eyes wide, nerves trembling, wondering how everything flipped when they weren't looking. You ever notice how the people who underestimate you always share the same expression? That smug little half smile, the one that says they've already written your story, already decided your limits, already measured your worth with the shortest ruler they could find. They walk around convinced they know exactly where you'll end up, how far you'll go, what you'll fail at, what you'll never rise above. They think they've got you pinned like a butterfly under glass. Predictable, small, contained, and oh, how wonderfully wrong they are. See, the funny thing about those people, the ones who think they're smarter, louder, stronger, more in control, is that they forget the one thing that turns the whole game around: timing. Timing is the trickster none of them can outsmart. Timing is the silent dealer shuffling the cards while they brag about winning a game that hasn't even started. They think everything is static. They think the version of you they once knew is the version that will stay. They don't understand how quickly life can flip, twist, stretch, and snap a story into something completely unrecognizable. Their mistake isn't doubting you. Oh no, doubt is natural. Their mistake is assuming their doubt has power. They treat their assumptions like chains, as if believing you'll never rise means you won't. As if their opinion has the authority to lock your future in place. It's almost adorable, the confidence they have in their own predictions. They think they're prophets, fortune tellers, architects of your destiny, when really they're just watching shadows on the wall and assuming they understand the whole room. They don't see the hours you spent quietly building yourself up. They don't see the moments you stayed awake while everyone else slept, sharpening your mind, strengthening your resolve, gathering every piece of strength life tried to scatter. They're blind to your preparation, your patience, your resilience, and because they don't see it, they assume it doesn't exist. They're like someone staring at the calm surface of a lake, completely unaware of the storm brewing beneath. And then comes that moment, the delicious moment when timing decides it's ready to turn the page. It never warns them. It never taps them on the shoulder and says, "Watch closely now." No, timing likes theatrics. It lets them laugh a little too long, underestimate you a little too boldly, and settle into their comfortable delusion before it flips everything in one swift, elegant motion. Suddenly, the one they dismissed becomes the one they can't ignore. The one they doubted becomes the one they can't outrun. The one they mocked becomes the one standing right in front of the opportunity they thought they deserved. And oh, the look on their faces when they realize the story is shifting, there's nothing quite like it. That moment when confusion flickers into panic, when arrogance slides into disbelief, when the certainty they clung to dissolves like sugar in rain. They start replaying every moment in their minds, trying to piece together how they missed the signs, how they misread you, how they convinced themselves they understood your potential when they barely understood their own. But that's the beauty of timing. It doesn't need their permission. It doesn't ask for their approval. It doesn't bend to their expectations. It only waits for the perfect instant, the one that exposes their blindness and reveals your rise in the same breath. The instant that proves they weren't just wrong, they were spectacularly wrong. That they weren't just underestimating you, they were underestimating the forces moving on your behalf. And you, standing there in that moment, don't even have to say anything. You don't have to gloat or remind them of what they once said. Timing already did the talking for you. You ever feel that strange stillness right before something shifts? That quiet, heavy kind of silence that isn't empty at all. It's loaded. Like the world is holding its breath, watching, waiting, letting pieces move where no one can see them. People laugh at the idea of hidden forces, but that's only because they're too busy staring at the surface of things. They look at what's obvious, what's loud, what's right in front of them, and they think that's all there is. They never notice the little tremors beneath their feet, the soft rustling behind their plans, the subtle rearranging of circumstances that doesn't announce itself with fireworks. But something bigger, something sharper, something far more deliberate has a habit of slipping through the cracks when no one's paying attention. It never enters through the front door. No, that would be far too simple. It prefers the quiet route, the unseen route, the route where it can twist the entire direction of your life without anyone realizing the setup was happening long before the moment popped into view. People underestimate how often the extraordinary travels in silence. They expect loud signs, flashing lights, dramatic music. They want their breakthroughs wrapped in neon. They want their victories presented on a silver platter with applause. But the biggest shifts, the ones that rewrite your story, don't arrive dressed like that. They come disguised as small nudges, tiny changes, strange coincidences that don't make sense at first. You take a turn you weren't planning to take. You meet someone you weren't supposed to meet. You get an idea you didn't know you needed. And suddenly everything starts bending in a new direction. But the best part is this. The people around you, especially the ones convinced they know your limits, never see it coming. They're too focused on their predictions, too confident in the picture they've painted of your life, too busy believing they've got you all figured out. Meanwhile, something beyond their understanding is already rearranging the board. A new opportunity, a shift in perception, a door you didn't even know existed starts unlocking without making a sound. Hidden forces nudging you toward something bigger while they keep assuming nothing will ever change. And you start to feel it, not in a loud way, not in some dramatic epiphany. It's more like a whisper brushing against the back of your mind, a subtle spark, that strange awareness that the air around you is different, that something is building, that your steps suddenly feel guided, almost pulled, toward a place that wasn't on your map before. You can't explain it, but you can sense it, like a shadow that's not threatening, but promising, like a secret being carried toward you. And the thing about these hidden shifts is that they don't care who doubts you. They don't care who thinks you're stuck. They don't care who tries to keep you small. They move with precision, slipping past every limitation others tried to put on you. While people gossip, these forces gather. While people judge, these forces align. While people cling to their opinions about what you can or can't do, these forces set the stage for something they'll never see coming. They'll look confused when the change hits, of course. People always do. They'll swear you got lucky, or someone helped you, or the world suddenly decided to favor you for no reason. They'll come up with every explanation except the truth that something bigger was moving long before they realized the ground beneath your life had shifted. They won't understand how you found yourself in the right place at the right time. They won't understand why doors opened for you that stayed locked for them. They won't understand how the invisible currents pulled your story upward while they were still betting on your downfall. But that's the thing about hidden forces. They don't need to be understood. They don't need to be announced. They only need one thing: your readiness to feel the shift, even if no one else can see it. You ever notice how the ordinary clings to people like a safety blanket? Oh, they love it. They wrap themselves in routines, predictable choices, tiny little habits that make life feel controllable. They convince themselves that staying inside the lines keeps everything tidy, manageable, safe. The ordinary whispers promises of stability, of comfort, of this is just how things are. And people swallow it whole because it's familiar, because it doesn't challenge them, because it doesn't make them look at the parts of themselves they'd rather keep locked away. The ordinary resists change with every dull, desperate breath it has. But here's the twist. Extraordinary things don't care about comfort. They don't care about tradition or predictability or whatever cozy little cage someone has built for themselves. The extraordinary isn't impressed by fear. It doesn't knock politely and ask if now is a good time. It storms in when it finds someone who's ready. And that's the catch, isn't it? Not everyone is ready. Most people think they are. But the moment life hints at something bigger, they retreat. They scramble back into the familiar like a child running from a shadow on the wall. They want greatness, but they don't want disruption. They want transformation, but they don't want the discomfort that comes with it. Readiness, real readiness, isn't loud. It doesn't stand up and shout. It's quieter than that. It's a shift in mindset, a subtle rebellion against the ordinary. It's the moment you stop pretending you're satisfied with crumbs and start preparing for the feast you're meant for. The extraordinary senses that it's like it can smell readiness, like a spark in the dark that refuses to go out. You might not say it out loud. You might not even show it. But something in your energy changes. Something inside you starts leaning forward instead of holding back. And that's when things start moving in ways you can't explain. Little chances pop up. Strange alignments happen. Doors you thought were welded shut start creaking open. It's not magic. No, it's alignment. The extraordinary gravitates toward people who've made space for it. Not people who are lucky. Not people who are loud. Not people who demand it. People who are ready. People who've done the quiet work, the internal kind. The kind that no one applauds. The kind that no one sees coming. But the ordinary isn't happy about that. Oh, it fights back. It whispers doubts. It sends distractions. It gives you excuses that sound almost reasonable. Stay where you are. This is good enough. Don't risk it. The ordinary wants to keep you comfortable because comfort is the only thing it can offer. But you're different when you're ready. You feel the pull, the itch, the restlessness. You start noticing how small the cage really was, how low the ceiling actually hung. You begin to see beyond the limits that once felt like home. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. People around you might start getting uncomfortable too. They'll notice you're changing, even if they don't know why. They'll sense the shift in you, the calm, the focus, the determination. And the funny thing is, they might try to pull you back into the ordinary, because your transformation threatens everything they've accepted for themselves. It's easier for them if you stay the same. It reassures them that their own fear is reasonable. But deep down, they know something is happening. They know something is calling you that never called them. They might mock it, ignore it, pretend it's nothing, but they feel it, and it unsettles them. Extraordinary events, opportunities, connections, they don't choose the loudest person in the room. They choose the one who's been quietly preparing, the one who's done the inner work, the one who stopped letting fear drive. They choose the person who's cracked open enough to receive something bigger than the ordinary life they were handed. And once that alignment clicks, once readiness meets opportunity, everything around you starts bending toward a new shape, a new rhythm, a new direction. You don't chase extraordinary moments. You become someone they're drawn to. The ordinary might resist, it might cling, it might scream in protest, but it can't stop what's approaching when you've outgrown it. It can't hold back the shift once you've already stepped beyond its reach. The extraordinary doesn't care how long you spent doubting yourself. It doesn't care who overlooked you. It doesn't care who tried to keep you small. It only cares that you're ready now. You ever notice how most people only pay attention to what they can touch, what they can count, what they can neatly label and tuck into their little mental drawers? They stare at the obvious and call it reality. They cling to what's visible and ignore everything that moves underneath it. But awareness, real awareness, that's a different creature entirely. It doesn't look at the world the way everyone else does. It notices the flickers, the shifts, the small hints life slips into the cracks when it thinks no one is watching. It picks up on the patterns hiding behind coincidences, the meanings tucked beneath inconvenience, the signals wrapped inside silence. Awareness doesn't wait for permission. It pulls back the curtains before anyone realizes there even times were times curtains. Most people are sleepwalking through their own lives. They see a closed door and assume it means no. They watch something fall apart and assume it means failure. They experience a delay and assume it means denied. Their eyes work, but their perception doesn't. They miss the signs that something is stirring. Something is aligning. Something is being prepared just outside their field of vision. And because they can't see it, they think there's nothing there. They don't realize that the biggest opportunities rarely walk up and introduce themselves. They whisper, they linger, they test you, tugging lightly at your awareness to see if you're paying attention. But when you're aware, truly aware, everything starts to shift. Little things stand out. You start noticing patterns in your missteps, clarity in your mistakes, direction in your discomfort. What once felt like random chaos begins to form. A shape, a trail, a path only visible to whoever's willing to look deeper. And that's where perception sharpens into something powerful. You start to see how life nudges you, how circumstances bend, how certain people leave right before something better arrives, how you're redirected not because you're being denied, but because you're being aligned. People might laugh at that idea, of course. They always laugh at what they don't understand. They call it overthinking, or wishful thinking, or superstition. They assume awareness is just imagination stretching itself too far. But that's only because they've never experienced what it feels like to suddenly recognize a pattern that was shaping your life long before you became conscious of it. They've never felt the moment when everything clicks at once, when you realize the coincidences weren't coincidences at all, just hints you weren't ready to interpret earlier. And here's the trick. The more aware you become, the more opportunities reveal themselves. They didn't magically appear, they were always there, woven into the background like hidden ink waiting for the right light. You were just too distracted by fear, or doubt, or noise to notice them. But once awareness sharpens, once your eyes stop glazing over the details, the invisible becomes visible, the impossible becomes reachable. The unusual becomes intentional. You start seeing connections between moments you once thought were meaningless. You start sensing where to step next, even if the path isn't fully lit. You begin to understand why certain things took longer than you wanted, why certain people were removed, why certain delays protected you from walking straight into something you weren't ready for. Awareness is like a spotlight that doesn't light up the whole stage, just the next step. But that's enough, more than enough. Because once that light moves, once you follow it, the entire direction of your life can shift without a single dramatic announcement. And while everyone else is stumbling around waiting for a sign that punches them in the face, you're catching the whisper, the subtle tug, the barely there hint. You're recognizing opportunities they call accidents. You're sensing change before it happens. You're adjusting while they're denying. And that difference, that difference is what transforms everything. Awareness becomes your advantage. It turns the invisible into guidance, the quiet into momentum, the subtle into revelation. And the world has no idea how you keep getting ahead, how you keep landing where you need to be, how you detect things before they break, how you move before doors close. They think it's luck, coincidence, maybe even some strange charm. They don't understand that the only real secret was that you started paying attention while they were still pretending the invisible didn't exist. You ever notice how people stare at you with that tiny, poisonous smile that says they've already decided who you are? They don't need to know your story, your battles, your nights full of clenched fists and quiet prayers. No, they just look at you once, maybe twice, and think they've got you all wrapped up in a neat little box labeled "not enough." Funny, isn't it? People judge faster than they breathe. They freeze you in their minds like a bad photograph, and then they walk around thinking that image is the whole truth. They don't even realize how wrong they are. Or maybe they do. Maybe they like it that way. Makes them feel safe, makes them feel in control. But you and I, we know better, don't we? Because deep inside, there's this fire building. A quiet one, the kind that doesn't roar like a lion yet, but simmers like a whisper you can't quite ignore. While they're busy underestimating you, you're busy growing, stretching, tightening the cracks they hoped would break you apart. They don't see that part. It's invisible to them. They only see what confirms what they already want to believe. That's the trick. People don't look for truth. They look for comfort. And you don't fit their comfort. Not yet. So they reduce you to something small, something harmless, something forgettable. They think if they label you early enough, you'll stay exactly where they put you. But the joke's on them. Because people always forget that the quiet ones, the underestimated ones, the not good enough ones, they're the ones who end up rewriting the script. They're the ones who show up one day with a strength no one predicted. You become the kind of surprise that rattles the room, the kind of shift that makes everyone whisper, "How did we miss that?" Oh, they didn't miss it. They ignored it. Ignorance is comfortable. Recognition? That's uncomfortable. Especially when it means admitting they were wrong about you from the beginning. And the more they doubt you, the more they feed something inside you. It's amusing if you think about it. They think their disbelief is weakening you, but it's doing the opposite. It's pushing you, sharpening you, creating this private little tension that only you can feel. This pressure that squeezes out hesitation and forces you to grow in the dark. And then, one day, you'll come out of that dark room changed in ways they'll never understand. People always fear what grows where they cannot see. They fear what they didn't shape with their own expectations. But you know what's even funnier? They think they're the ones watching you, studying you, judging you, They think they're in control of your image, but they don't realize you're watching them too, watching their assumptions, watching the limits they try to put on your name, watching the smug certainty in their eyes when they think you'll never go beyond the place they assigned you. And every time they underestimate you, you learn something about them, how shallow their vision is, how small their imagination is, and how fragile their confidence really is. Because only people who feel threatened try so hard to shrink others. And while they're busy shrinking you, you are expanding, quietly, patiently, deliberately. You're building a version of yourself that doesn't need their approval, their permission, their applause. You're building something they can't touch because they never believed it existed in the first place. That's the beauty of being underestimated. It gives you room to grow without their interference. It gives you the freedom to reinvent yourself without their fingers smudging the process. And eventually, the same people who once dismissed you will find themselves squinting at the new you, confused, startled, maybe even a little intimidated. They'll say you changed, but you didn't change. You just stopped fitting into the tiny box they crafted for you. And nothing unsettles people more than watching someone crawl out of the mold they tried to trap you in. That's when the shock comes. That's when the silence falls. That's when they realize you were never small. They were just too blind to see the magnitude forming right in front of them. You know what people hate the most? Not failure, not chaos, not even truth. No, no, no. What they hate is the moment you rise in a way they never predicted. The moment you break the pattern they built for you in their heads. Because people love patterns, they adore predictability. It helps them sleep at night. They think, ah yes, this person will always stay exactly where I placed them, right there on the bottom shelf, collecting dust. And the moment you move just a little, they panic inside. They won't show it, of course. They hide it behind sarcasm, behind disbelief, behind that polite little smile that says, don't try too hard. But inside, they're shaking, because you stepping up means their worldview stepping down. And what they'll never admit is how threatened they are by your potential. They try to disguise it as concerns, advice, limits. Oh, they're masters at limits. They hand them out like party favors. Be realistic. Don't aim too high. People like you, well, that's the one that always makes me laugh. People like you, as if they know what you even means. As if they've spent 1 minute inside your mind, inside your battles, inside the conversations you've had with yourself at 3 a.m. They don't know people like you. They only know the version of you that makes them feel safe, superior, settled. And when you threaten that version, oh, they don't like that one bit. But that's where it gets interesting. Because sometimes the only way to truly grow is to let their doubts echo around you until you can hear something else underneath, something stronger. Their disbelief becomes a kind of strange soundtrack, a rhythm that pushes you forward. Each laugh, each shrug, each you can't do it turns into fuel. A different kind of fire, a darker kind, the kind that doesn't burn you, it sharpens you, makes your steps more precise, your thoughts more focused. It's funny how the very people trying to hold you back end up building the pressure that launches you forward. And while they whisper behind your back, acting like they've read the whole story already, you keep writing new pages. Pages they don't see. Pages they could never imagine. You grow in moments they're not even thinking about you. You work when they're asleep. You plan when they're distracted. You grind when they assume you've given up. They don't understand how quiet transformation works. They think change always comes with a spotlight, an announcement, a drum roll. But real change? It happens in silence, in shadows, in the private corners of your life where their opinions can't reach